I was still alive when I was pushed into the crematorium. My husband, embracing his white moonlight, smiled at me through the glass. Aurora, you're born to be a workhorse. Even in death, you should earn us some money. The son I risked my life to give birth to handed over the igniter. Mom, don't delay my dad's true love. They didn't know. I had opened my eyes again. I was back to the day he knelt down and proposed. This time, I will personally send them one by one to hell. The glaring lights hurt my eyes. The noisy sounds of blessings filled my ears. Aurora, will you marry me? Damien knelt on one knee in front of me, holding up a huge diamond ring, his eyes full of affection. I swear, I will love you and cherish you for the rest of my life, and never let you suffer the slightest grievance. What laughable vows. I remember, just yesterday, or rather in my previous life, he said the same affectionate words to the director of the mental hospital. She's crazy, give her electroshock, increase the dosage. The burning pain of the flames searing my skin still lingered in my nerve endings. Looking at his hypocritical face, I really laughed. A soft cough sounded. Brother Damien, hurry and let Sister Aurora agree. If she doesn't agree, I'll feel uneasy. Ivy, a poor student sponsored by my parents, lived in my house, ate my food, and used my things. At this moment, she was wearing a white dress, her face pale, standing pitifully beside Damien's mother. She always looked like she was about to faint at any moment. In my previous life, I was deceived by her appearance, and I tolerated her everywhere, thinking she was weak and sick. Until after my death, she wore the limited edition dress I designed, held my husband's arm, took my son, and inherited the billion-dollar empire I built with my own hands. Damien's mother, Brenda, immediately supported her with concern, and turned to me with an air of superiority. Aurora, what are you still standing there for? Can't you see that Ivy isn't feeling well? Hurry up and put on the ring, don't spoil everyone's mood. Damien's aunts and uncles also chimed in noisily. That's right, it's your blessing that our Damien would take a fancy to you. What's the point of a woman being so strong? In the future, you'll still have to stay at home and raise children. Your parents died early, it's good you can marry into our Damien's family. You'll have someone to rely on in the future. These voices were exactly the same as the sarcastic remarks they made when they visited me in the mental hospital. Aurora, just stay here and rest assured, we'll take care of the company. We'll help you raise Noah, don't worry about it. I worked like a dog for Damien's company for 10 years, turning a small workshop into a listed company, only to have his whole family leech off me. Now they even want me dead. The smile on my face deepened. Under everyone's astonished gaze, I took the ring from Damien's hand. He thought I was going to put it on, and a smug smile appeared on his face. The next second, I flicked my wrist. The ring, which symbolized all the humiliation of my previous life, was accurately thrown into the trash can not far away. A thump sound, slight, but it silenced the entire room. Damien's face instantly turned purple. Aurora, are you crazy? I'm not crazy. I looked down at him and said word by word. Want to marry me? Fine. My finger pointed to the weak and helpless Ivy in the corner. First, get her out of my house. As my voice fell, Damien's face turned completely black. He rushed up, grabbed my wrist, and roared in a low voice, suppressing his anger. Aurora, haven't you made enough trouble? I forcefully shook him off. A ring of red marks immediately appeared on my wrist. Making trouble? I rubbed my wrist, my gaze colder than his voice. I haven't even started yet. Damien's mother, Brenda, could no longer pretend. She pointed at my nose and cursed. You crazy woman. Damien must have been blind to fall for you. Ivy is such a good girl. Living in your house is an honor for your family. You actually want to kick her out? Exactly, his aunt echoed in a shrill voice. What's wrong with her eating a few meals at your house? Your parents died and left so much money. Isn't it supposed to be for Damien to spend? In my past life, they used this self-righteous attitude to drain my family's wealth and suck me dry. I couldn't be bothered with this group of clowns. My gaze was fixed solely on Damien. Damien, your first entrepreneurial funding, $500,000, who gave it to you? Damien's expression froze. It was me who took it from the inheritance my father left me and gave it to you. Your mother lost $50,000 playing mahjong last month, and cried and called me. Who filled that hole for her? Your aunt's son, your cousin, was 200,000 short for a down payment on a house. Who paid for it? Your second aunt's daughter took a fancy to a designer bag, 30,000 yuan. Whose card was it charged to? With each word I spoke, Damien's face grew paler. The faces of the relatives behind him also turned all sorts of colors. In my past life, I never mentioned these things in public to protect his face. Today, I will tear off that layer of false pretense, layer by layer, in front of everyone. And you? My gaze finally landed on the faltering Ivy. You've lived in my house for 3 years, tuition, living expenses, this dress you're wearing worth tens of thousands. Which one wasn't paid for by me, Aurora? Ivy's face turned ashen in an instant. Tears fell like broken beads rolling down. She clutched her chest, as if unable to breathe, and leaned weakly towards Damien. Damien, I didn't mean to. I thought Aurora wouldn't mind. Damien immediately hugged her into his arms with heartache, and glared at me. Aurora, enough. Ivy isn't feeling well. Do you have to provoke her? When did you become so vicious? Looking at this blinding scene before me, I laughed. Look, this is the man I loved for 10 years. He turns a blind eye to my sacrifices, but when his white moonlight sheds 2 tears, he feels so much heartache. Vicious. I took out a pre-prepared check from my handbag. This is 10 million. Everyone gasped, their eyes fixed on the check. I met Damien's shocked gaze, and a cruel arc formed on my red lips. Since you care about her so much, I might as well be a good person. Take this 10 million and get out of my world. From now on, your life and death have nothing to do with me. Damien's breathing stopped, his face constantly changing between pale and green. 10 million is the bait to lure him in. I slowly leaned down and whispered in his ear in a voice only we could hear, word by word. Or, return everything your family took from me, doubled. Return 20 million to me, and I'll leave immediately, fulfilling you 2 lovebirds. The number 20 million exploded in Damien's mind like a bomb. The greed and shock in his eyes froze. Replaced by, was panic. 10 million was a temptation. 20 million was asking for his life. In my previous life, he inherited far more than 100 billion in family property after I died. But now asking him to take out 20 million is impossible. In the deathly silence, Brenda was the first to react. She fell to the ground on her backside and started to throw a tantrum. There's no justice. You heartless woman. Our Damien has worked himself to death for you. And now you want to force him to his death. Your parents died young because they were cursed by your cold and ruthless nature. Now you want to curse our Damien's family. Her words were sharp and venomous. In my previous life, I was completely controlled by her rhetoric. I always felt that since my parents died early, I should be kinder to the people around me to make up for the lack of family affection. But now I only find it laughable. Before I could even speak, Damien's aunt jumped out and pointed her finger at me, chiming in. Aurora, don't be ungrateful. You're an orphan without parents, and our Damien's family is willing to have you out of pity. That's right, after spending a little money on you, you're being so petty. Quiet. I gently interrupted their chow now with 2 words. I raised my phone. Brenda, on the 23rd of last month, at 3:15 p.m., you called me and said you lost 50,000 playing mahjong and wanted me to transfer you the money, or you would jump off a building. I opened a recording. Brenda's cries and wails echoed throughout the banquet hall. Aurora, you have to save Mom. Mom lost terribly this time, and if you don't give me the money, I might as well die. Brenda's wailing stopped, and her face turned as red as a pig's liver. My gaze then turned to his aunt. Linda, your son was buying a house last month, and you were short 20,000 for the down payment. You sent me 38 voice messages and made 15 phone calls. I showed screenshots of the call history and WeChat chat logs, saying that if I didn't give you the money, your son wouldn't be able to get married, and you would hang yourself in front of my house. And you. My finger pointed one by one at the relatives who were just clamoring. Each time I pointed to someone, I would reveal an ugly thing they did to extort me. The evidence was conclusive and precise. The entire banquet hall fell into deathly silence once again. All the guests looked at them with eyes full of disdain and contempt. Just then, Ivy, who had been tearful, suddenly stood up. She weakly tugged at the corner of my clothes. Sister Aurora, don't be angry, it's all my fault. I shouldn't be living in your house. I'll leave right now. Please don't argue with Damien Gugug and Aunt, okay? As she spoke, she clutched her chest and walked toward the door, staggering with each step. What a brilliant way to retreat as an advance. Her leaving made me seem aggressive and unfeeling. I quietly watched her perform, without saying a word. Sure enough, Damien couldn't hold back any longer. He rushed forward and hugged Ivy tightly from behind. He roared emotionally, "Ivy, you can't leave. What will I do without you?" This cry was sincere and heartfelt. The whole place erupted in an uproar. In front of his fiancée, he tightly hugged another woman and said, "What will I do without you?" This wasn't just cheating, it was a public announcement of their affair. I laughed with unparalleled joy. Everyone has seen it now, right? I raised the microphone, my voice clear and echoing through every corner. It's not that I, Aurora, am intolerant, it's that he, Damien, insisted on having it all. Today, I announce before all our relatives and friends. My engagement to Damien is hereby null and void. Having said that, I turned to Damien, whose face was ashen, a cruel smile playing on my red lips. "Oh right, Damien, you haven't forgotten, have you, that the 500,000 you needed to start your business, we signed a stockholding agreement for? I seem to recall that the legal representative of your little workshop is still my name, Aurora." My words were like a depth charge, shattering the false prosperity of the entire banquet hall. Damien's face, contorted with anger and humiliation, froze when he heard the words legal representative. Then it turned into utter absurdity and disbelief. He chuckled dryly as if he had heard the biggest joke in the world. "Aurora, have you been in the mental hospital too long? Has it fried your brain? That company is mine. My blood, sweat and tears. The legal representative is you? You're dreaming." Brenda also immediately scrambled up from the floor. Like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, she screamed and lunged at me. "You vicious woman. Not only do you want money, but now you want to steal my son's company. I'll fight you to the death today." The hotel security guards reacted quickly and immediately stepped forward to stop the raving madwoman. I watched their final madness with cold eyes. Too lazy to even argue with them, I simply raised my hand and snapped my fingers. In the corner of the banquet hall, a refined man in a bespoke suit and gold-rimmed glasses stood up. Carrying a briefcase, he walked unhurriedly to the front. "Good evening, everyone. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Ms. Aurora's private lawyer. My surname is Wallace." Mr. Wallace's voice was steady and powerful. He opened his briefcase and took out some documents. He said in an unquestionable, professional tone, "According to relevant laws and regulations, the registered legal representative of Galaxy Technology Co., Ltd., is indeed Miss Aurora herself. Mr. Damien, you were unable to register the company at the time due to personal credit issues and non-local household registration restrictions. Ms. Aurora used her identity information to complete all registration procedures. Furthermore, Mr. Wallace paused and handed a document precisely to Damien. This is the equity holding agreement you signed with Ms. Aurora. It clearly states that Ms. Aurora is the actual holder of 70% of the company's shares. You are only holding them on her behalf. We had this agreement newly notarized at the notary office 3 days ago." Damien's eyes were fixed on the document. His signature and bright red fingerprints, like a branding iron, seared his eyes. He trembled all over, suddenly looked up, his bloodshot eyes glaring at me. "Aurora, you schemed against me." I smiled, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. "Schemed? Damien, I'm just taking back what was rightfully mine. Your so-called starting from scratch was just a path I paved for you. Your so-called career was just a dream I gave you. Now it's time to wake up." Among the guests were many business people. The way they looked at Damien had completely changed. From looking at a talented young man, to looking at a gigolo who ate soft rice and vainly tried to take over the nest. Damien's defenses completely collapsed. He was like a rabid beast, breaking free from Brenda's grip, and lunging at me with a roar. "I'll kill you, you bitch." However, his hand didn't even touch the hem of my dress. He was pinned down by 2 tall security guards, one on each side. Seeing that the situation was hopeless, Ivy, who had been hiding in the back, suddenly rushed forward. With a thump, she knelt in front of me. Her pale little face was streaked with tears as she clutched my leg tightly. Sister Aurora. It's all my fault. I was bewitched and seduced Brother Damien. Don't blame him, you're the one he loves most. Please give him another chance. I'll leave immediately, I'll disappear from your world completely, please don't ruin him. What a perfect act of sacrificing herself to save her master. Turning the crime of commercial encroachment, once again, lightly into an emotional dispute between a man and a woman. Unfortunately, I'm no longer the fool from my previous life who would be deceived by her clumsy acting. I kicked her hand away in disgust. Looking down at her, I said, "Put away your hypocritical act, it's disgusting." "Mom, have you made enough trouble?" A familiar voice that still pained my heart came from the doorway. It was my son Noah. He was wearing expensive limited edition sneakers, his face filled with the impatience and arrogance of adolescence. He frowned, looking at the mess before him. Pushing past the security guards who were blocking his way, he walked straight to me. His tone was full of reproach. "My dad's already like this, can't you be a little more generous? Did you have to take things this far?" In my previous life, he stood outside the burning building, using the exact same tone, saying the exact same words. "Don't stop my dad from pursuing true love." Those words, like a poison dagger, plunged into my heart once again. Looking at this face, 7 parts similar to Damien's, yet once treasured by me, I laughed. Seeing his savior arrive, Damien immediately struggled and shouted, "Noah, quick, talk to your mom. She's crazy. She's going to take everything from us." Sure enough, Noah turned to me and said righteously, "Mom, the company is my dad's life's work, how can you just take it? Even if you divorce, the property should be split 50-50. You still have me, I'm your son. You can't let me starve with you, can you? What a 50-50. What a can't let me starve." I slowly walked towards him, my gaze as calm as a pool of stagnant water. "Noah, on your 16th birthday, I established a trust fund for you." Noah's eyes lit up. He knew about this, Damien had mentioned it to him long ago. Said there was a lot of money in it, enough for him to live a carefree life. The money in it is enough for you to squander for the rest of your life. I watched the greed flickering in his eyes, my voice as light as a feather. "I once thought that this was the best security that I, as your mother, could give you. Mom, I knew you loved me the most." Noah immediately smiled, thinking I was about to compromise. He even started planning for the future. "Then you quickly give the company back to my dad. We won't touch the money in the fund for now, until later." I raised my hand, interrupting his wishful thinking. "But now I've changed my mind." In front of everyone, I picked up my phone, dialed Mr. Wallace's number, and pressed the speakerphone button. "Mr. Wallace, immediately start the cancellation process for the trust fund that I set up for Noah under my name." Mr. Wallace's crisp voice came from the other end of the phone. "Okay, Ms. Aurora." Noah's smile froze on his face. He looked at me in disbelief. "Mom, what did you say?" I hung up the phone, watching his face turn instantly pale. One word at a time, I announced clearly and cruelly, "All the money inside, I will donate in your name, in its entirety, to impoverished out-of-school children in mountainous areas. Noah, since you care so much about your dad, and you long for true love so much, then go and be with your dad and your Aunt Ivy. Experience what it means to be truly penniless." Noah was so shocked by my words that he took 2 steps back, pointing at me with trembling lips. You venomous woman. No wonder Dad didn't want you." He turned to help Damien, but Damien pushed him away. Damien was only concerned with one thing. "Aurora, you can't do this. The company is mine." I ignored the wails of these people. I waved to the security guards, my tone devoid of warmth. "Get these irrelevant people invited out. My engagement party doesn't need trash to pollute the environment." Amidst the uproar and scornful gazes, Damien, Brenda, Ivy, and that Noah, crushed by reality, were unceremoniously dragged out of the banquet hall by the security guards like stray dogs. I picked up the champagne offered by a waiter, stood under the dazzling lights, and raised it to all the guests. "Sorry to have made you all laugh. Now the farce is over. My new life officially begins." The engagement party's farce ended hastily, like a clumsy play. Without lingering for a moment, I drove to Galaxy Technology overnight with Mr. Wallace. Standing in the CEO's office on the top floor, overlooking the bustling traffic below. This was originally supposed to be my place. CEO Aurora. Mr. Wallace placed a document on my desk. All assets under Damien's family's name have been applied to be frozen, and the court summons will be delivered tomorrow morning. In addition, Brenda's gambling debts, the creditors have received the news, and will probably come knocking soon. I picked up the coffee, the corner of my lips curling into a cold smile. This is just the prelude to their pain. I pressed the intercom, my voice piercing through the silence of the night. Notify all middle and senior managers to attend a meeting promptly at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Also, immediately notify the technical director Larry to come and see me. A few minutes later, a middle-aged man with thinning hair hurried in. Larry was someone I had personally promoted, and he was also the company's technical core. Seeing me, his expression was a bit complicated. CEO Aurora. Larry. I cut to the chase. From now on, I officially take over Galaxy Technology. The stock price will fluctuate, morale will be volatile, and Damien has been operating in the company for many years, planting many of his people. I need you to do one thing. Larry immediately stood up straight. CEO Aurora, please instruct. Activate the highest level of data protection and freeze all of Damien's and his cronies' back-end permissions. Larry looked embarrassed. CEO Aurora, Damien is technically skilled after all, and only he knows the underlying password for the core servers. He is no longer a Galaxy employee. I interrupted him, my eyes as sharp as an eagle. Tonight, I want to see a brand new firewall and encryption system. Money is not a problem. If there are not enough people, hire them immediately. If you can't do it, you and your team don't need to come tomorrow either. Larry trembled, knowing I wasn't joking. Yes, CEO Aurora. I guarantee to complete the mission. Larry took the order and left. Only Mr. Wallace and I were left in the office. He pushed up his gold-rimmed glasses, his tone tinged with admiration. CEO Aurora, you are even more decisive than I imagined. I smiled faintly. If you don't hold the knife in your own hand, you can only wait for others to stab you. In my previous life, I trusted people too much. I handed the knife to Damien, letting him clear the path for me. But I never expected him to turn around and stab the knife into my heart. In this life, I am my own knife. The night deepened, and I handled the piles of documents alone, familiarizing myself with the details of each project. Galaxy Technology is the result of my 10 years of hard work, like my other child. I will never allow anyone to destroy it. At 3 in the morning, Larry's call came in. His voice was tired, but with an irrepressible excitement. CEO Aurora, the firewall reset is complete. When we were cleaning up the background data, we found a hidden backdoor program. My heart sank. Speak. This program can bypass all supervision and quietly send the core data of our Sky Dome project, which is currently under development, to an overseas server on a regular basis. The sending time is tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. A cold sweat broke out on my back. The Sky Dome project. That is my leading artificial intelligence project, the lifeline of Galaxy Technology for the next 10 years. Nearly 1 billion yuan has been invested in research and development. In my previous life, it was shortly after I was sent to a mental hospital that the Sky Dome project data was leaked. The company's stock price plummeted, and rival companies took advantage of the situation. In the end, Damien had to sell the company to the other party at a very low price. Now that I think about it, it wasn't a business accident at all, but a complete conspiracy. Damien, he had long wanted to drain the company and elope with his white moonlight. Can you track the address of that server? My voice was tight. The other party is very cunning, using multiple jump servers. But we found installation residue files of the same backdoor program in Ivy's personal computer. The fingers holding the phone turned white from the force. So that's how it is. Ivy, hidden beneath that delicate exterior, is a heart more venomous than a viper. They not only want my money, but also my life, and they want to destroy the result of my 10 years of hard work. CEO Aurora, should we call the police immediately? Larry asked on the other end. No. I quickly calmed down. Calling the police now will only alert the enemy. Since the other party dares to take action at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, they must have a backup plan. Moreover, a residual file alone is not enough to convict them. In my previous life, they were able to send me to a mental hospital, burn me alive in a fire, and still get away with it. In this life, I will never give them any chance to turn over. What I want is to catch them red-handed, so that they can never recover for the rest of their lives. Larry listened carefully. My brain was racing. First, do not cut off that backdoor program, but modify its destination. Make a fake database filled with discarded and incorrect data, and let it send on time at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Second, track down the real IP of that overseas server with all your strength. I need to know who is controlling it from behind. Third, and most importantly, I emphasized, besides you and me, I don't want a third person to know about this. Larry was a smart man, and immediately understood my meaning. I understand, CO Aurora. I'll take care of it right away. After hanging up, I stood in front of the huge French windows, watching the dawn break on the horizon. A new storm is coming. Damien Ivy. Did you think that taking my money and destroying my company would allow you to sit back and relax? You're too naive. I'm not only going to ruin your reputations, I'm also going to uproot the people behind you. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the company's senior management meeting was held on time. The atmosphere in the conference room was uneasy. Many of them had been promoted by Damien, and they were currently whispering to each other, waiting to see me make a fool of myself. I walked into the conference room, and the entire room fell silent. I scanned the room, taking in everyone's expressions. I presume everyone has heard about last night's farce. I got straight to the point. From today onwards, Starlight Technology will be fully taken over by me. Damien has been formally sued by me for suspected embezzlement and economic crimes. As for who among you are his confidants, who has unclear financial dealings with him, I know it all. Immediately, someone couldn't sit still. Chief Financial Officer Lewis was the first to stand up and retort. CEO Aurora, what do you mean by that? Mr. Damien has worked tirelessly for the company. Is it not too inhumane for you to seize power as soon as you return? That's right, without Mr. Damien, where would Starlight be today? We refused to accept this. Several of Damien's cronies began to make a commotion. I smiled. Refused to accept? I threw a stack of documents on the table. Director Lewis, who paid for your son's $2 million annual expenses for studying abroad? Planning Department Manager Peterson, where did the money for the Porsche you just bought last month come from? And you, Project Department Vice President Wright, the villa in the suburbs, isn't it registered in your mistress's name? With each sentence I spoke, the faces of those who were called out paled a little more. The conference room once again fell into dead silence. I'm giving you two choices. I held up two fingers. First, confess voluntarily, spit out everything you've swallowed, and then get out. Second, wait for my lawyer's letter and a summons from the police. I will take back every single penny of what belongs to Aurora. Now, does anyone else have any objections? The room was silent. Lewis and the others were sweating profusely, and dared not say another word. I wanted to use these swift and decisive measures to quickly deter this group of opportunists. I need absolute stability within the company. Only then can I focus on dealing with the wolves outside. Meeting adjourned. Just as I was about to leave the conference room, Mr. Wallace's encrypted phone call came in urgently. His voice was heavier and more panicked than ever. CEO Aurora. Something terrible has happened. Noah. Your son Noah just jumped from his grandmother Brenda's hospital room. Every word Mr. Wallace spoke on the phone was like an ice-cold steel needle piercing my ears. Noah jumped. I gripped my phone silently, the conference room deathly quiet. I could even hear my own steady heartbeat. No pre-calculated heartache or panic. My heart was like a millennium-frozen stubborn rock, without even a single crack. The fire from my previous life had long since burned the tender corner in my heart named motherly love into scorched earth. CEO Aurora? Mr. Wallace urged anxiously from the other end. I leaned back in my chair slowly, My voice calm in a way that didn't sound like a mother who had just learned her son had jumped. Send me the address, you go over there first, don't let them touch the scene, I'll be right there. After hanging up, I didn't rush out immediately. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking at the brightly lit city below. I thought of 16 years ago, when he was first born, like a small meatball. I held him in my arms, feeling like I possessed the whole world. I also thought of his young face outside the fire, filled with impatience. The sentence he uttered. Don't delay my dad from pursuing true love. So the retreat of love, the return of cause and effect, applies not only to the feelings between men and women, but also to blood ties. When I arrived at the hospital, the scene had already been cordoned off by the police. Flashing police lights, keenly smelling reporters, a crowd of onlookers. The hospital entrance was blocked completely. In the chaos, I immediately saw Damien kneeling on the ground, crying so hard he was about to faint. In his arms, he was still holding that pitiful, seemingly fragile Ivy. Brenda, on the other hand, was lying on a stretcher on the other side, beating her chest and wailing. My poor grandson. You're just gone like that. Aurora, that poisonous woman. She forced you to die. Seeing my car, Damien rushed over like a madman. He pounded on my car window with both hands, roaring with a twisted face. Aurora, you murderer. Give me back my son. You drove Noah to his death. The reporter's cameras clicked, focusing on me, the flashes of light blinding. I opened the car door and looked at his performance coldly. A policeman walked over, looking at me with a complicated expression. You are Noah's mother, Ms. Aurora? I nodded. Your son is not in life-threatening danger. The policeman's words stopped Damien and Brenda's wailing abruptly. He jumped from the third-floor hospital window, and just happened to land on the awning below. Both legs are fractured, but he is conscious. Damien was stunned. Then a subtle hint of disappointment flashed across his face. The policeman ignored him and continued to say to me, But Ms. Aurora, we have reason to suspect that this was not a suicide attempt, but a deliberately planned farce intended to tarnish your personal reputation. As he spoke, he handed me an evidence bag. Inside was a printed suicide note. This so-called suicide note does not contain any intent to die, but instead accuses you of being cold-blooded and ruthless, and breaking up the family. We found a record of his phone calls with a reporter from an entertainment newspaper on his phone. The time was 5 minutes before he jumped. The policeman paused, his tone becoming more serious. Most importantly, the hospital surveillance shows. An hour ago, your former mother-in-law Brenda was sneakily in that location downstairs, stacking 3 thick quilts stolen from the hospital ward. The whole place erupted in an uproar. The reporter's lenses instantly shifted from me to Damien and Brenda, who were ashen-faced. It turned out this wasn't a suicide attempt at all, but acting. A self-harming trick to gain sympathy, just to portray me as a vicious woman who drove her own son to his death in front of the media, thereby forcing me to submit through public opinion. How malicious and how foolish. My cold gaze passed over the so-called suicide note, landing on Damien's face, which was filled with dismay at the exposure of the plan. The surrounding air seemed to freeze. The reporter's cameras forgot to click the shutter. Everyone was stunned by this unbelievable reversal. The trick for sympathy had failed. Damien's lips moved, his brain a blank, completely unable to understand why things had developed to this point. Brenda was even more slumped on the ground, pointing to the quilts and incoherently defending herself. I was just afraid the ground was cold, my grandson. Afraid the ground was cold? I sneered, my voice not loud, but like a sharp ice pick, instantly piercing her clumsy lie. I took the evidence bag from the police officer. Turning to the group of keen-nosed reporters, I showed the printed suicide note, to every lens. As you can all see clearly, a farce to gain sympathy and distort the truth. But do you think that's all there is to it? The tone of my voice suddenly changed, my eyes becoming as sharp as knives, shooting straight at Ivy, who was being protected in Damien's arms. This farce is just to cover up a bigger conspiracy. A commercial espionage case that is enough to ruin Xinghe technology, and is worth billions. The words commercial espionage case exploded in the crowd like a bombshell. The reporters went crazy, the flashes flashing at an unprecedented frequency, almost turning the night into day. Damien suddenly looked up, his eyes full of shock and a hint of panic at being exposed. Ivy's body trembled even more violently, the pale little face instantly losing all color. I didn't give them any chance to breathe. Just then Mr. Wallace squeezed through the crowd, covered in sweat. He leaned close to my ear, his voice trembling with excitement. CEO Aurora, there's been a major discovery on the technology department side. They cracked the receiving terminal of the Sky Dome project's backdoor program, and found that the actual controller of the overseas server is in the country. He uses Ivy's computer as a springboard, and that person's true identity is Ivy's own uncle, a commercial spy who defected abroad 10 years ago and joined our biggest competitor, Glory Group. I clenched my fist tightly. The time had come. I spoke into the camera, clearly revealing the truth, word by word. Just an hour ago, the technology department of my company discovered that someone had planted a backdoor program in the company's core server, attempting to steal the core data of our Sky Dome project, which cost us 10 billion in years of research. Once the data is leaked, Xinghe Technology will face the disaster of bankruptcy liquidation. I paused, savoring the growing fear on Ivy's face, and slowly dropped the final blow. And the receiving terminal of this backdoor program, after our technicians' overnight tracking, found that the real manipulator behind it is none other than Miss Ivy, your own uncle who defected abroad and joined our biggest competitor, Glory Group. The whole place was silent. You could hear a pin drop. All eyes, like spotlights, were focused on the fragile, seemingly helpless White Lotus. No, it's not me. I don't know. I don't know anything. Ivy finally broke down, screaming and shaking her head desperately. Tears mixed with terror made her look like an out-of-control madwoman. You didn't know? I laughed and walked towards her step by step, each step feeling like I was stepping on her heart. The residual installation files for that backdoor program are on your laptop, the one you never leave. You didn't know? Then why did your uncle register an offshore account with 8-figure funds for you a month in advance, overseas? Ivy, you live in my house, eat my food, use the money my parents left me, and attend the best schools. Yet you're like a poisonous snake, coiled in my home, plotting to deliver a fatal blow to me today. Ivy was forced back by me, collapsing to the ground, unable to say a word other than screaming and denying. I stopped looking at her and turned to Damien, who was ashen-faced. And you, my good husband. For this woman, you were willing to be an accomplice, watching her drain our 10 years of hard work, to exchange for a ticket for you and her to fly away. You thought selling the company at a low price was a business failure? No, that was an asset transfer you had planned long ago. Damien, you are not only stupid, but evil to the core. I took a deep breath, no longer paying attention to these clowns, and turned to the police behind me. Officer, I am now, in the personal name of Aurora, the legal representative of Xinghe Technology, officially reporting a case. I accuse Ivy and Damien of suspected commercial espionage and stealing commercial secrets. I request that the police immediately arrest them and bring them to justice. Under the witness of countless cameras, several policemen stepped forward. Amid Ivy's shrill screams and Damien's desperate roars, they put cold handcuffs on them. The click of the handcuffs locking was the final note of this farce. It was also the beginning of the fate I wrote for them. Under the pursuit of countless flashes, Damien and Ivy, one ashen-faced, the other weeping and sniveling, escorted by the police, they stumbled towards their deserved prison journey. I stood there, watching this scene indifferently. A reporter held a microphone to my mouth, excitedly asking about my next plans. I took the microphone, swept my gaze over all the cameras present, and said in a clear and firm voice, Xinghe Technology will fully cooperate with the police investigation and pursue the criminal responsibility of all those involved. At the same time, my legal team will immediately file a civil lawsuit to recover all losses caused to me personally and to the company. Anything that belongs to me, Aurora, even if I don't want it and throw it away, will never be given cheaply to any betrayer. After speaking, I turned around, completely isolating the noise behind me. Just as I was about to get in the car, Noah on the stretcher suddenly struggled to get up. His legs were in casts, looking disheveled. He shouted at my back in a hoarse, tearful voice. Mom! I was wrong. Please forgive me. I stopped, but didn't turn around. He was still crying. I didn't know things would turn out like this. I just didn't want to see Dad upset. Mom, give me another chance. I will definitely be filial to you in the future. Filial piety? I slowly turned around and walked towards him step by step, looking down at his face, which was exactly like Damien's and full of selfishness. Opportunity. I asked softly, with a hint of cruel laughter in my tone. When you watched me being locked up in a mental hospital, I gave you a chance. Outside the fire, when you told me not to make trouble and not to delay your dad from pursuing true love, I also gave you a chance. Noah, your so-called filial piety is too cheap. He was stunned, staring at me blankly, as if he was seeing his mother for the first time. I bent down, looked into his eyes, and told him word by word. The fund I set up for you has been revoked. All of your assets, including those limited edition sneakers, will be frozen and used to compensate for the company's losses. From now on, you, your father, and that Ivy aunt of yours are a family. Go live your true love life of utter destitution, and don't come dirtying my eyes again. I straightened my back, didn't look at him again, and left resolutely. Behind me was his desperate, heart-wrenching wail. 3 months later, Damien and Ivy were convicted of multiple charges, including commercial espionage and stealing trade secrets, and punished accordingly. They were sentenced to 15 and 12 years in prison, respectively. Ivy's uncle, who worked at Shining Glory Group, was also implicated and imprisoned. This triggered a major earthquake within the rival company. As for Damien's relatives, under the court's compulsory enforcement, all the money they had swindled from me was recovered. Principal and interest, not a penny less. Brenda lost her home and was hounded by loan sharks, eventually ending up on the streets, living by picking up trash. As for Noah, both legs were crippled. About 200 words omitted here, detailing Noah's ultimate fate and the protagonist's soaring career. 1 year later, I stood in the newly renovated CEO's office. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window was the dazzling cityscape at night. My phone rang. It was Larry, the head of the Sky Dome project, his voice full of excitement. CEO Aurora. The Sky Dome system is officially launched, and market feedback is far beyond expectations. We succeeded. I picked up the glass of red wine on the desk, walked to the window, and looked at the confident, composed reflection of myself in the glass. Her eyes smiled, her gaze was sharp, and her whole body exuded a powerful aura of control. That fire burned away my marriage, my family ties. It burned away the first half of a woman named Aurora's life. But from the ashes, a completely new me had already been reborn. I gently swirled the wine glass, the bright red liquid swaying gracefully in the light, like a new life. I curled my lips into a smile, and silently raised my glass to the myriad lights outside the window. To this damned and fascinating new life.